Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, the Millennial Investor, and today we are answering a question by a comment that was left in my comment section by Omar B. It said, "Hey, great video as always. I can't seem to find any good energy dividend growth companies to invest in. It seems quite iffy. Shell and Exxon seem to be the best right now, but I'm still not sure. Is it worth investing in the energy sector right now, and what is your take on this?" I love when I get comments from people in my comment section asking for topics for videos, and I would love to answer this question. So in this video, we're going to be going over some things like where's the price of crude oil, what is it looking at. We're going to be going over some of the smaller energy companies like Chesapeake Energy, and we're going to be looking at its financials. We're going to be comparing this to some of the larger big dogs out there like Chevron and ExxonMobil. And as usual, if you enjoy watching my content and you're interested in using M1 Finance, make sure there's some. So apparently someone has referred to M1 Finance. So we have had 2 successful referrals. I did not know this until right now, so whoever you were, thank you. I'll hopefully find out very soon who used it. But just like these 2 that used it, hopefully I'll be getting this $10 very soon, and you will be as well. So make sure to use this link down in the description. It's in all of my videos. Whoever you 2 were, I'll find out soon enough. Thank you guys so much for using that link, and I'll make sure to mention you in the video when I find out who it was. So to update you guys on my portfolio, we are now up to $186.24 worth of gains, or about 11.68% worth of total return, $179.70 for market gain, and $6.54 for market gain. Today, we had 2 different stocks claim their dividend. One of them was Wells Fargo and Company. We received $1.72 from Wells Fargo. And the other one that claimed their dividend on the same day today was IBM International Business Machines. They claimed their dividend and we received about 97 cents. And yesterday we also received one more dividend before I shot this video. Yesterday we received a dividend from NextEra Energy Partners for 44 cents. So for the last 2 or 3 days we've received $3.13. We have had a couple down days in the market this past week or so, and today is a very green day. We're up 1.39% or about 25 bucks, and part of that coming from the earned dividends. I love to see this earned dividends going up more and more, and as you can see here, I have $102 worth of cash balance. We are going to click Auto Invest now. So now that that is updated, we'll be investing that $102. $100 came from me depositing to my account, and the $2.10 is some of the leftover funds that we have from dividends being paid out. As you can see here, we have 20 upcoming trades coming up, so if we click View Details here, I'm not going to go through one by one, but I'm just going to scroll through them for those of you that are interested. It's included 20 of the 30 stocks that I own, and I'll scroll through the list right here so you can see from smallest to largest, and the largest will be Southern Company and Wells Fargo. And we just received a dividend from Wells Fargo, so that's great. Some of the biggest gainers in the portfolio are still some of the same names like Discover Financial, Whirlpool, NextEra Energy. And now in the portfolio, we now are down on 4 of the 30 stocks. So we're still up on 26 of the 30 stocks, but Procter & Gamble, we did just hit in the red end, which I'm very glad about. I would love to average down on those positions, but overall the portfolio is doing very well, so let's get started in the video. So first up, we have U.S. oil price collapses to lowest level since 1999. This is a chart for the price of WTI crude. As you can see here, it started off, it goes all the way back to about 1998 or so, where it was about 20-something dollars a barrel. It shows its ups and downs, and it shows its huge spike here around 2008 when it got up to about $150 a barrel. And the reason why I wanted to show this chart is because I wanted to compare it to the financial crisis. In 2009, when the market bottomed and everything was at rock bottom, stock prices, energy levels, everything. Crude oil at its bottom, at its absolute lowest price, was right at about this $30 mark, down to the T. And as you can see here, it recovered and went back to normal levels, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100. And then we had a retreat down in 2014, 2015, 2016, and we've kind of just stayed flat. And this is where crude oil has been for the last half decade or so, until 2020. We all know why. It's because the recession has hit, and air travel and just travel in general has pretty much went through the floor. Nobody's going anywhere. Crude oil companies have been getting slaughtered, and so has natural gas companies as well. So at these levels, with crude oil in the 20s and the low 20s and even temporarily being in the teens, it is basically impossible for a lot of these companies to survive in conditions like this. So the reason I wanted to bring this up, I want to show you a company that hits really close to home, that is very close to my house. This is a company called Chesapeake Energy. If those of you that haven't heard about it, they just recently did a 200-to-1 stock split. 200-to-1. So basically, that those of you that don't know, let me explain for a little bit. It's a way to artificially increase the stock price, but you still have the same amount of equity in the company. So let's say you owned 1,000 shares of Chesapeake Energy. You now own 5, just 5, and the stock price gets multiplied by 200. So basically, you are literally getting rid of 99.5% of shares that are in the market available to you. So basically, just to give you an idea, if you were to take 15 and you were to divide that by 200, this current stock price before the stock split today at $15.05, it would be just a little over 7 cents. 7 cents. If you look over the last year, let's see here and let's hold and let's look at the performance over the last year. So over the last year, this company has went down 97.31%. The 5-year chart, oh my goodness, it is went down 99.51%. So you would have lost 99.5% of the market value in just 5 years. If you look at the max here, this used to be a thriving company back in 2008. Factoring in the stock split, this would have been a $13,000 stock compared to today's $15,000. But let's look at the balance sheet on this company. This is why a lot of the smaller players, Chesapeake Energy is a smaller player compared to the big dogs like your Exxon Mobils, your Chevrons, your Shell, stuff like that. But let's look at the balance sheet. I always like to go over a balance sheet with a lot of our major companies. So let's look at the last 4 years. We see 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. So this was the end of 2019, so this was about 5 or 6 months ago. And you can see here, over the last 3 years, they have had basically no cash. Now, first off, before we go any further, it doesn't matter if we're talking about an oil company, a retail company, a beverage company, an aerospace and defense company, whatever it is. If you have no cash on your balance sheet, that is an extremely, extremely dangerous red flag. So right here, these numbers are all in thousands, of course. So they have $6 million in cash. $6 million. Okay. Well, let's look at their long-term debt. $9 billion with a B, not an M. As you can see here, there's 2 commas here, but there's only 1 on the cash and cash equivalents. So that means literally their long-term debt is 1,000 times higher than that of its cash and cash equivalents. The reason why I wanted to use this company, Chesapeake Energy, their headquarters is literally just a couple miles from my home. I know several people that work for Chesapeake Energy. I know the company very well. I go to Thunder games all the time. They sponsor the stadium. But a lot of smaller players like this, and I could give dozens of examples, but any smaller oil company and natural gas company that is small, like Chesapeake Energy, for example, or Dividend Energy, or a lot of other smaller names like that, they are more than likely going to declare bankruptcy. I honestly can't think of a way that Chesapeake Energy gets out of this alive. I don't know how they're even going to get loans from the bank or be able to survive from this. And if they are able to recover, if I'm wrong, if they are able to make it out on the other side, what is it going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? If they are able to stay afloat, not declare bankruptcy, how will this company ever come back? Just to even get back to the point where they were with crude oil and natural gas being so low, how are they ever going to get back? I don't see a scenario where that happens. So first off, smaller companies like this is a prime example. Do not mess with them. Do not touch them. Do not invest in them. I'll tell you why I don't think you should be investing in the big dogs either. But if you absolutely are just set on investing in the energy company, in a crude oil company, natural gas, anything involved pretty much with energy lately, if you're going to do it, invest in one of the big names, one of your Shells, your British Petroleums, your Chevrons, your Exxon Mobils. Do not touch these smaller ones. I'm assuming that this company will be bankrupt probably within 6 months of me making this video, if not 12 months. Like I said, I'll go ahead and hold my word to that. You guys that are watching can leave me down in the comment section. Hold my word to that because I assume that it will probably happen. The funny thing is M1 Finance, if you go to research here and you search CHK, their ticker, M1 Finance doesn't even let you invest in it. They don't even support the stock because it's performed so poorly. They don't want anybody buying it. So if your own brokerage doesn't want you to buy the stock, that's already a pretty bad sign. So we'll see what happens there. So speaking of being on M1 Finance, we're going to click stocks and then we're going to filter by energy companies. And we're going to sort by market cap. I would only mess with the biggest names if you're just dead set on investing in energy companies. And a lot of these big names here, like I said, Chevron, ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch, Enbridge, ConocoPhillips, Phillips 66, a lot of these big names, a good chunk of them have already cut their dividends, if not just slashed them significantly. I know Occidental Petroleum, for example, they slashed their dividend a massive amount. I believed it was like 92% or something like that. This is not a company that I follow very closely. They were raising their dividend. They got it up to 79 cents a quarter, and I can't even remember what they cut it down to, but it was literally pennies. It was like 90 something percent cut. So that's a perfect example right there. So let's go back to these energy companies, and the two biggest ones here are the ones that we're going to be going over. By market cap, ExxonMobil is 186 billion, the largest company, and the second largest is Chevron. And their dividend yields, as you can see, ExxonMobil has a dividend yield that is right around 8%. This is a dividend aristocrat. They have paid their dividends for decades now. And I will say that this company's management is very, very, very focused on the dividend. That is very important. And I do think that they might be able to hold that dividend if oil can stage a huge recovery. But honest to God, if you're not one of these massive players, I think the dividends are pretty much out of the window. And even with these big names like Chevron and Exxon, I think they're probably going away. But regardless, if you're wanting to invest in them, this has an 8% yield if it stays. And it has raised every single year. It's went from 73 cents a quarter up to 87 cents a quarter. And same thing with Chevron. It is a dividend aristocrat as well, I think. It has a dividend yield of 5.73%, so about 6% there. Over the last 5 years, the dividend has went from $1.07, and then it's all the way up to $1.29. They had a big raise right before the crash took place, and I don't know if this stock will be able to hold its dividend. Just generally speaking, I don't really follow the energy sector that close. I won't invest in them for one of the main reasons. So as you can see with these companies, they follow a pretty similar path as crude oil because they're obviously reliant on one thing, the price of crude oil. As you can see, 2014 to 2019 or so, crude oil pretty much stayed in a flat line. And if you go back to these energy companies here, for the last 5 years before this recent drop, they pretty much stayed in a flat line. They just pretty much gradually went down and didn't go anywhere. So let's look at Chevron, for example. Did Chevron do the same thing? If we go to the 5-year chart for Chevron, it pretty much did the same thing. It had a little dip right here, but it pretty much just stayed flat. Didn't go up, didn't go down, just traded sideways. Now that's great if you're receiving dividends, but what happens when crude oil plunges? It's inevitable that this will have its up and downs, crude oil will. The one thing I hate, that I absolutely hate, and the reason why I titled this video, why I won't invest in energy companies, is that the stock price and the performance of the company is reliant on one thing, the price of the commodity that it serves. So crude oil, for example, if crude oil is up, if it's booming, if it's skyrocketing to $150 a barrel, this company is going to do amazing. The stock is going to skyrocket. They're going to be more profitable than ever. They're going to do amazing. They're going to raise their dividend. But on the flip side, when it's crashing, these companies are doing terrible. They're bringing on debt. They're spending all of their cash. They're cutting their dividends. Some of them are potentially looking at bankruptcy. Why would you want to be so reliant off of something that cannot be controlled? Chevron and ExxonMobil have little to nothing to do with this price. There's so many factors such as geopolitical issues and things like that that cannot be controlled that Chevron and ExxonMobil can absolutely do nothing about to control this price. The only thing that these individual companies can do to change the price of crude oil is pump oil faster or slower. And a lot of times they don't even have control over that because of the government or because of cost because of the oil rigs. There's so many different other factors that play into this. And another reason is, why would you want to invest in crude oil when you know in the future eventually we are going to move away from crude oil? Now, I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. It won't happen next year and it won't happen the year after that. But eventually, crude oil is pretty much going to be a thing of the past. So, I mean, companies like Tesla. So, Tesla is a stock that I've covered many times on this channel. Tesla is focused on electric vehicles. It's cleaner, it's quicker, it's more efficient. Tesla vehicles, eventually, electric vehicles like Tesla, will be a thing of the future. These big names like Chevron, ExxonMobil, eventually, 20, 30, 40 years from now, whenever electricity starts to dominate the market for vehicles, they're going to be a thing of the past. They're going to be extinct. They're going to be bankrupt. So talking about the long-term performance of these companies, I always talk about I invest in companies for the long term. So for example, no matter what happens, let's just take Pepsi for example. Pepsi is one I love to give an example because they have a demand that is pretty much never softened. You are never going to see humanity stop drinking beverages. People are always going to need something to drink. Now, people might shift brands. Pepsi might lose its market share. They might start making some bad management decisions. They might lose money. But people are always going to need beverages. Something to drink, something to eat. Pepsi is always going to be around for that. I think that this company will last probably centuries in the future until we evolve and maybe go out to outer space with Mars with Elon Musk. The Southern Company, for example, this provides electricity for houses. People are always going to need electricity for their houses. Unless we have a absolutely astronomical major revolution in technology to where we no longer need these electricity companies, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, Southern Company is going to be around to stay. They're one of the dominant players in this market. So investing in a commodity on something that has its price influenced by so many other factors that is completely out of your control, such as governments and market conditions and things like that, I would not ever see myself investing in an energy company. And if I did, it would have to be such a perfect opportunity. And let's look at the balance sheets on some of these big dogs like Chevron and Exxon. So I got Chevron pulled up here first. So let's look at the balance sheet. As you can see here, same as Chesapeake Energy, we're going to look at the last 4 years. It is a slow downtrend from 2016 to 2019. They had right about $7 billion in cash, and now they're down to 5.6. So a slow, steady decrease. And let's look at their long-term debt. It has slowly decreased as well, but their cash has too. But even while their debt is significantly lowered, now this was on December 31st of 2019, so this was before COVID-19 really started to take place. So let's look at their cash. It is 5.6 billion, and their debt is 23 billion. So that's about a 4.5 times ratio. That is not completely out of control. It's still pretty big. Now remember, this is before the recession and the crisis took place. This number is going to get astronomically higher. 23 is going to be a joke. They're going to be well into the 30s, probably even into the 40s to try to recover from this. And this cash of 5.6 billion, it's going to get smaller. So it's going to look a lot uglier. And this one is a lot better than ExxonMobil. So let's look at ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil has cash that has pretty much stayed flat, a very slow decrease over the last 4 years, pretty much stayed flat. It went from 3.6 billion to 3.1 to 3 and then 3 again. So we're right about $3 billion in cash. And if you look at their long-term debt, it has pretty much stayed flat again, a very small decrease from 34 billion to 30 billion. So let's look at that cash one more time. 3 billion, 30 billion in long-term debt. So they literally have a 10 to 1 ratio in long-term debt. 10 to 1. Comparing that to Chevron that only has a 4 to 1 ratio, or about a 4.5, ExxonMobil is significantly worse off compared to Chevron just in terms of their cash and long-term debt. Now, I know there's a lot more factors that go into this. Those are just the two numbers that I mainly like to look on because they're some of the most important on the balance sheet. Not to mention, in times like these, regardless of how big or small your debt is, the cash is even more important than the debt. Because if you don't have cash, if you're not able to make payments on those debt payments, if you're not able to pay employees, if you're not able to do all these other things, if you don't have cash, you don't have anything. So with Chevron, not only do they have a better balance sheet in regards to their cash versus long-term debt, but they have a stockpile of cash that is about twice the size of Chevron, and they're a smaller market cap. So ExxonMobil, in my opinion, is a lot worse than Chevron, and I think that's why people are pricing it accordingly. If you go back here to stocks, we're going to go to research, we're going to go to stocks, and then we're going to go to energy. The two companies that we're talking about here, Chevron and ExxonMobil, its PE is priced a lot different than that of ExxonMobil, and that's part of the reason why its dividend is a lot smaller. Because people are pricing this stock to perform a lot better than Exxon because they know exactly what I just told you, that their balance sheet and their financials are a lot better than Exxon. If I had to pick one of these two that cut their dividends, if not both, it's going to be Exxon. Exxon does not have the financials to make it through this crisis. A lot of these other big dogs will be cutting their dividends as well, and if the biggest one in the market, such as Exxon, is a threat to cut their dividend and they're absolutely tanking in stock price, the smaller dogs probably will as well too. It's reasons like this and the amount of debt on the balance sheet that it makes me absolutely hate these companies. So going back to the comment that Omar left asking if I would look at any dividend growth companies in my portfolio or if there's anything that he should invest in, I would personally recommend heavily staying away from it. If you look at all these different sectors, there's so many other amazing companies. Utilities, I own the Southern Company. Technology, there's Microsoft, there's Apple, there's so many other amazing companies you can own. Real estate, Realty Income, American Tower, for example, has performed amazing over the last couple of years. Financial services. There are so many other companies that are so much better. And in a time like now in a recession when stocks are trading at significantly lower prices than they were just 6 months ago, why would you not put your money to work in better companies that will perform better over the next 10 years than a company that is reliant on crude oil and cannot control the price of it. If you look here on the year chart, the SPY, or the S&P 500 Spider ETF, is down 1% year to date. We have recovered quite a bit, and this is a lot better compared to Chevron and ExxonMobil. If we look at Chevron and pull it up here, so let's look at the year chart. It is down 24%, and I'm sure that'll probably get worse as crude oil stays down. And that's not to mention it is up quite a bit today. A lot of these crude oil companies are actually up today too. If we look at ExxonMobil, which is XOM is their ticker, ExxonMobil over the last year has performed just like Chevron, for example, is down 42.66%. You would have lost almost half your money just a year ago. I know you would have received dividends in that time, but still, that is pretty bad. If you're unsure about what to invest in and you're not exactly sure what companies you should be buying and you don't want to buy any of the stocks in my portfolio, just buy the SPY. Buy the S&P 500. You'll get a 2% dividend yield with almost no expense ratio. That is extremely small. And you'll have excellent performance in the next 5 years, especially while these stocks are at a discount. For the 2 people that did use my link to refer themselves to M1 Finance, you are completely welcome to use this portfolio. I share this pie. This link is in the description of all of my videos, so let's copy this into the web browser. And the reason why I think a lot of people chase these stupid oil companies is because they want to go for dividend yield. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. We go back to M1 Finance here, and let's go to research, and let's hit stocks. So the 2 that we were looking at, which was Exxon and Chevron, we're looking at a 7.8 and a 5.73. And I said Chevron is the one to buy out of the 2 top dogs. So 5.73% dividend yield. And my portfolio has a 4.1, and it is diversified among so many different sectors. We got technology, real estate, banking, utilities, consumer beverages. There are so many different sections and so many different categories, and it is spread among so many different companies, and you would receive dividend payments all the time, every week, just like the 2 that we got today and the 3 we got this week so far. This is such a safer, long-term investment compared to a lot of these crude oil companies. Over the past year, we're down about 8%, which is a hell of a lot better than those crude oil companies we just showed. Why would you want to invest in those other companies when you could diversify your portfolio? If you're not interested in the companies that I'm investing in, that's fine. But you can look at these 30 and at least get some ideas, at least pick a few of them that you like, or go and invest in some of the other dividend aristocrats that you think are going to be successful in the future. So stay away from the crude oil companies, stay away from the natural gas companies, pretty much just stay away from the energy sector in general, because you don't want to be investing in a company that will have a chart like this over the next 5 years. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Like I always mentioned in the last of my videos, make sure to use this link if you're interested in using M1 Finance and you enjoy watching my content. And thank you for those 2 that did use my referral link. I am so proud of you guys, and I will be mentioning you in the next video. This is in the link of all in my description, and just like I just showed with my portfolio, I hit share my pie, and this is in the link of all of my videos as well if you're interested in personally investing in my pie. And I will be changing this as we go along, so make sure to stay updated with my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to comment down below. I would love more video ideas because I love addressing what you guys want to see, because coming up with videos on my own is what I want to talk about. But you guys commenting to me personally and figuring out what you want to know about, that's what I like making content about, because it's answering your guys' question and it's helping you guys invest. So comment down below any questions you want to know about the market, any stocks you want to look at, anything that I think I should be changing in my M1 Finance portfolio. And I'll be seeing you guys next time. Thank you very much. I'll catch you next time.